sexual freedom, living your truth, manifesting your best life. There are so many ways the New Thought movement has seduced our culture, so much so that you've probably adopted some of its teachings without even knowing it. Can affirmation be toxic? Are vision boards bad? Is self-empowerment a real way to heal mentally and spiritually? Is it all that bad to believe you attract the life that you want? How have these deceptive ideologies snuck into the church? We are going to be talking about all these questions and so much more on today's episode of Theology on Air. Well, welcome back to Theology on Air. Of course, we are an offshoot of Theology by the Pint, a ministry here in Houston where we talk about all kinds of spicy, controversial, interesting things around theology, philosophy, faith, and culture, all over good craft beer. And we hear lots of different perspectives on those things, but we love to go deeper on some of those conversations, especially with folks that don't live here in Houston. And so we have the podcast, Theology on Air. And we're so excited about our guest today, who's been with us before, but we love her, Melissa Dougherty. She's a Christian apologist. You may have seen her on YouTube. She's best known for her YouTube channel, where she shares her experiences with the new age and new thoughts. She'll tell that story in a second. She lives in New Mexico with her husband and 2 daughters and is the author of the brand new book coming out any second after we put this out, Happy Lies, How a Movement You Probably Never Heard of Shaped Our Self-Obsessed World. I love that title. I was saying before we started, I feel like I can hear you saying it. And the word probably is in parentheses. So like, how a movement you probably never heard of shaped our self-obsessed world. It's
That's
great.
all my editor. My editor came up with that. It was really good.
Yeah, it is good. It sounds like you guys could do like your book and Ali Best Stuckey's book, Toxic Empathy, like for a double sale. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, it probably would
they're
go side by
similar.
side. Yes.
But it sounds like from what I've read, you took all of the things that we've kind of talked about before, your story, what you've seen about the New Thought movement creeping into culture and into Christian culture and the church, and put it pen to paper so that you could explain and then warn people about that. So I'm really excited. But for those that have not listened to our former 2 episodes, I had you in it. Maybe just really quickly give us a recap of your own story. Like, how do you know anything about New Thought?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, because that's what happened to me.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in what I would have considered a Christian household, but I mean, single mom, 3 kids, kind of rough in that regard growing up. And spiritual beliefs were always had Jesus involved. We always talked about Jesus and the power that we have, alongside with Jesus showing us how to do those things, basically. And I just always assumed it was a more highly enlightened, more spiritual, metaphysical version, a way to look at Christianity. And it just seemed more spiritual. That's the simple way I'll put it. And it's like the organic version of it, it's just it's better,
the Whole Foods version. Yeah.
Yes. And it just, not only that, it seemed more pragmatic, but I didn't really give it much thought. I've always believed in God, even since growing up, but it didn't really matter to me until I became a Christian at 16, radical life change. So I grew up with Christian concepts, learning these things, but you know how it is whenever you're young, you don't quite get it or care until later on. And yeah, I became a Christian at 16 and definitely radically changed my life. The problem is that I had a lot of cynical Christians, I would say, cynical experiences where a lot of Christians just seemed really downright negative, just you had to sit up a little bit straighter and everything you did was wrong and you were
judgmental.
Oh gosh, yes. And so the people that talk about that all Christians are so judgmental. I'm like, yeah, no, they're not. But I see what they're saying. I can understand, the sentiment in that regard, and then you have the other pendulum on the other side, which is kind of where I went. I went into, I didn't realize how progressive I was as well. I didn't have words for these things. Okay. But I would have been very tolerant. I would have been very liberal. I was pro-abortion. I was pro-choice. I was pro you do you, right? Just whatever was loving, the least path of least resistance. I thought that this was the more authentic Christian message. This is what Jesus was really trying to teach. And this evolved over time. This wasn't just I became a Christian and then bam, I adopted these things. It was just over time, all these years go by. And it just kind of seeped in. And what I didn't realize is that the beliefs and things that I grew up with and that were handed down for generations was this type of Christianity, metaphysical Christianity, or New Thought.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at the books right now. A lot of them I used as source material that I got from my family, like their heirlooms. All of
Hmm.
them are New Thought books. I just didn't know that. I'm like, wow, these are ancient and
Yeah,
cool. They have
yeah.
all, yeah, like,
The
oh man, they're talking,
secrets. Yeah.
yes, yes, like secret knowledge. This is fascinating. Like it's telling us the truth about ourselves, and this is what Jesus was really trying to say. And we love
Hmm.
this stuff. We love this garbage. It's just, oh my, we are so over there whenever it comes to that. We just run to that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And the other stuff seems boring. Like reading the Bible for what it says seems boring. We want the secret stuff. We want to
Yeah.
know. Yeah. So I totally hook, line, and sinker went after that, thinking it was Christian. That is very important because I went to church throughout all those years. A non-denominational church, volunteered, was involved, went to small groups. Like this church was a not a heretical church or anything like that. It was a biblical church in that regard. But nothing gave me any indication that what I believed was wrong because it sounded Christian. Okay. And
Let
so,
me pause you for a second. When you
yeah,
say
go
the
ahead.
things were you sort of practicing some of these things in your own
Yeah.
life? Were you like manifesting or,
Yes.
affirmations?
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Manifestation, visualization. There was a lot of talk about, I call it the misuse of science now, but you have
Hmm.
quantum mechanics. You had like neuroscience says kind of statements. And it's very convincing whenever you have my friend Wes Huff, who just went and got himself all famous and stuff. But he
On
has
Joe
this,
Rogan. Yeah.
yeah, we've been friends for a while, but he has the saying, uh, what is it? Confidence doesn't equal competence. He said
Yeah.
this in the interview too. And it's so true because you have this confidence that's placed on these claims of quantum mechanics, physics, quantum science, neuroscience, and you don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
The
means.
lay person doesn't know if you're,
The
buying
average
something that's not true.
person,
Yeah.
exactly. And so when I would hear claims of, neuroscience shows that your mind, it
Hmm.
has electromagnetic energy, that whatever you're putting out is magnetic and it will come
Hmm.
back. Look, there's the science for it, that the thoughts that you're thinking are affecting the food that you're eating,
Hmm.
that it's affecting the water you're drinking and the things around you. Quantum mechanics shows and says that you can pull things into this material world. It sounded so cool.
It would
And
be really cool if it was true. Yeah.
well, and that's the thing is that throwing in some Bible verses makes it sound Christian and makes
Hmm.
it sound like this is what Jesus was really trying to teach. He was trying to tell
Hmm.
us these the secret to life. And it sounded really good.
Yeah.
And practically speaking, yeah, you have manifestation, you have visualization, frequencies, mind power, thoughts are things, the law of attraction, Christ consciousness. Okay, I went at the peak of these beliefs, I believed that I was just as much the I am as Jesus was.
Ooh.
And so oh yeah. Yeah, like, this is how tricky it gets. People are listening to that and they might think, "Whoa, how could that happen?" Believe me, whenever you have this view of scripture and you are taught that you share that divinity. You're a co-creator
Hmm.
with God. And that's the actual Christian message. It's a metaphysical message. It's beyond the physical, which means it's beyond the actual physical words of scripture.
Mm.
Which, yeah, I mean that gets a little tricky. We can talk about that later. But yeah, that's where I was. And so, long story short, it got all knocked down when I had my first child. I always say that my first child made me closer to God. My second child made me a better parent.
Mm.
But yeah, after I had her, I was still kind of restless. I still had a lot of these questions, believe it or not. And two nice Jehovah's Witnesses showed up at my door. I mentioned them in my acknowledgments actually, because they were the
Mm.
catalyst that God used for me to
How
start
funny.
researching. Yes, I started researching, and it was in simultaneously researching them that I realized, oh my word, I'm in this spiritual belief called New Age. I had no idea that's what it was. And what it was, the original title for the book was The Oldest Lie in the Book,
Ooh.
um, because that's what I fell for. It was very cliche. My editor immediately talked me out of that one. He's like, "Yeah, it's great, but it was great advice. I like the title that we ended up with, but that was the concept that I wanted. It
Yeah.
was very important that lie was somewhere in there." And so,
Mm.
it was the oldest lie in the book, and I fell back in my seat, and I was just like, "Whoa!" And totally repented. And that was 2011. So I've been on this journey of learning all these things since then. I did not realize, okay, this is important. Even after coming out of these beliefs, I thought that they were all new age. Any wiggity whack weird thing I thought was just new age, and it wasn't. New thought has been hiding behind the leg of new age for far too long. And
Hiding behind the leg. That's cute. I
yeah,
like
man,
it.
I'm over it. I'm like, no. Once I saw it, and this was a few years
Mhm.
ago. This is why I lost my mind and decided to write a book. Was because I'm like, why is nobody talking about this?
Yeah.
How have we not seen this? New thought is way worse, in my opinion, when it comes to the deception.
I was gonna say
New
it's
age,
sneakier. It's definitely
it's
like flies under the
way
radar for
sneakier.
sure.
Yes, and that's just my opinion. Some might disagree, but new age, I mean, come on, it's the red dude with the pitchfork and the pointy tail. You walk into a new age store, you know you're there. You
Yeah.
know what witchcraft looks like. You know what
Yeah. Tarot
the
cards and
occult.
crystals and yeah.
Yes. New thought is next to you at the pews of your church,
Woo.
right?
That
Like
is a
that's the
word.
problem. Yes. And so
Not my
that's the
church.
problem.
That's true. Not in our churches. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. And so, and that's the thing is that I went all these years just realizing, oh, I thought it was all new age. It's not. It definitely wasn't. And there was something very distinct and unique about my experience, right? I come out
Mhm.
of what I thought was new age, which in reality I'm like 20% ex new age, probably 70, 80% new thought, because there's always overlap.
Sure.
There's always overlap no matter what
Hey
you do,
guys,
but
Sarah Stone here. Sorry to interrupt what I'm sure is a riveting podcast episode, but Theology by the Pint needs your help to continue providing these podcasts, offering our in-person events, and growing so we can bring thoughtful conversation and the hope of the gospel to a world that's increasingly walking away from church and from faith. Now that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, all donations are tax deductible, so we've crunched the numbers, and if each listener of this episode gave just $1 for each episode you listen to, we'd put a huge dent in our annual budget. So consider giving today. Go to theologybythepint.org/give and click the link to donate. Thanks so much, and now back to our show.
people would come to me and they're like, "Hey, Melissa, oh my gosh, you used to be in the New Age," because I got into ministry with Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and all the things, counter cult ministry. And I used to be in the New Age. Wow, that's crazy. Like, what do you think about Reiki? Is that New Age? I'm like,
Yep.
what's Reiki? I had never heard of it
Oh, because
before.
that wasn't your version. You were a
Exactly.
new thought. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then
Yeah.
and then they're like, "What do you think of is sacred geometry New Age?" I'm like, I never took that class in high
Yeah.
school.
That class.
What is that? I don't know tell me about sacred geometry. And they would tell me, the intricacies. I'm like, it sounds really cool. Like it sounds like there's something to it, but in the sense that, yeah, there's obviously some sort of symmetry, but the belief tack to it, yeah, that's a little sus, but I had no idea what that
Yeah.
was. And yoga, I had no clue yoga,
Sure.
would have been considered new age. And so you go down this list and I'm like, what was I in?
Yeah.
Like,
You're
I
in a
know, guys,
secret
I
cult.
thought yes, I was like, I thought I was a Christian though. You didn't. And so it took me a while to unravel, but once I saw it, I could not unsee it. And everybody knows what new thought is. Even if you don't think you know what it is, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
as a quick placeholder, as you're talking, I'm thinking like within the conservative world, there's this huge like questioning of like science right now, like, the
Yeah.
vaccine and
Yeah.
a lot of the Make America Healthy Again. Like there's a lot of kind of
Mhm.
alternative like food stuff and
Mhm.
practices and red lights. And anyway,
Don't come for my red lights, Evan.
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying that like, even in the conservative space, as they're like becoming anti-institutional, they could be susceptible
Mhm.
to voices that, are like,
Pseudoscience.
yes, it's good for you to be questioning conventional science, conventional medicine. Here's some you didn't know that your body actually acts as a magnet, and therefore you can cure cancer by
Yeah.
which, by the way, may be true. Like I'm pretty much off the chemo bandwagon, so I might be one of those people susceptible. So anyway, just as a placeholder, like I do think even in the conservative space, like there are definitely, it's kind of like
Pitfalls.
how there's like cycles of
Yeah.
things. Like,
Well, what I would
Yeah.
tell them to be careful of, and what I think everybody needs to be careful of, is that they're especially in the political space right now, you see this overcorrection where it's just like, oh, they did that. Well, we're going to go way over here.
right.
Mhm.
And, that's why you see, I think that was part of the reason why the left went so far left was their hatred, maybe, for anything that Trump did. If he said that, the sky was blue, they'd figure out a way to not make it blue because Trump said it, and that's kind of what I see. And so my caution to everybody, my caution to Christians, conservative, whatever, is that if it's true, you should believe it.
Yeah. For
Whether
sure.
it's popular or not, I mean, you have pseudoscience, you have science. And if there's something that science can help us understand about the world that is, provable, testable, it correlates with reality, you should believe it. You know what I mean? But pseudoscience, I mean, if you're so upset at science that you're going over here, then you are
Sure.
part of the problem. You are
But
part
like you
of the problem.
said, I mean,
Yeah.
most people are not neuroscientists or,
No.
biochemists. And so we listen to a podcast and it tells us about grounding, which I am going to include in our
Yeah.
rapid fire section. And we're like, oh, well, that sounds legit. I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a mom. I don't study these things, so it's a little bit, it's easy to say if it's true, believe it, but it's kind of hard to figure out who's telling the truth, who's
Yes.
trustworthy. And, so
Which the father of lies loves,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's talk a little bit about ways that New Thought has infiltrated the church, and maybe you can just give us a couple specific examples of where people might unknowingly encounter some of these New Thought ideas. Like you mentioned positive affirmation. How is that currently influencing America and then our churches? Like, give us some examples of these things.
Sure. Yeah. So each chapter, there's a lot of educating of the reader in the beginning of the book where it's like, what is this? Where did this come from? Why is it not New Age and things like that? And then each chapter goes over where it's in society and in the church, because it's really important to understand that New Thought is both a spiritual, positive thinking movement, but it's also very secular. There's a sect of New Thought called Religious Science, in fact, which is Centers for Spiritual Living, which is what it's known as today. They're very secular, for the most part. And so New Thought is made to look Christian, but you can choose not to associate with it or affiliate with it, which is why you can go to the self-help section, which is an entire chapter about the self-help. The foundations of the self-help movement began with New Thought authors. And so that's why you can take concepts that fall into these three categories, which make it very difficult to discern sometimes, which is some of it's true, some of it's spiritual, and some of it is some of it's true, some of it's spiritual, and some of it is legitimately like New Thought concepts that could both be secular. Like it could just be something that they're giving you, but it's a New Thought concept that doesn't have a spirituality attached to it. So anyway, you can have all that and make of it what you will. But you mentioned affirmations. So this affirmations go along with visualization techniques, and positive words, positive thoughts, and manifestation. The other thing that it really goes along with are I am statements, which a lot of people are like, of course, that's what defines affirmations as they are. But however, we can thank New Thought, the New Thought movement, for the popularity of this belief. Affirmations, by definition and origin, are New Thought prayer. Okay. Yes. And so let me tell you how.
So an affirmation would be things like, I mean, we all remember back on SNL, the guy that would be like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. But
Stuart Smalley.
Yeah, Stuart Smalley. And then, in the what was it? The Help, that book, the lady would say to the little girl, you was smart,
you was smart, you was kind,
you was important.
You was important. I love that movie. Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. But
yes.
So why is that bad? Because if I just wake up in the morning and I say, I am competent to do what I need to do today, I am a child of God. No. These are true things.
That is not bad or wrong. Keep doing it.
Okay. So where does it take a turn?
Let me define this. Okay. Because this is why every chapter needed a nuance. Every last chapter, because you have these things that are true. You have these things that are helpful. You have things that are inherently New Thought. And like right now, I'm doing an entire deep dive on Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Did not expect the turn for this research to take what it did. Napoleon Hill is an incredible character to study and research. But part of I think it's in part 4, I'm going over the argument of, but this helps me, this works. What's wrong with this? And one of the things that I say, and one of the things that I differentiate is that the problem is that you have this book, Think and Grow Rich, that has really good advice. It's really good business advice. However, it's being sold to you under the guise of this spirituality that you don't even know you're signing up for. Okay. That's the problem. Like, think of a cookbook. Okay. Think of a cookbook and you're following the recipes and you're like, yeah, man, this is helping me. It's helping me lose weight. But you don't know that you're signing up for a particular diet that's being marketed to you. You have no idea. It's like the Atkins diet or the keto or whatever it is. And in the long term, this will actually hurt you. You don't know what it is. You're being sold something and marketed something.
Okay.
Yeah, right. And so it's like you don't know what that's okay. So keep that
Yeah,
in mind as
got
we're
it.
talking about, let's just take affirmations. And so let me explain what they are in a New Thought way, and then let me explain what they're not, okay? They are popular in society and designed the way they are because of New Thought affirmations. You have New Thought teachers, you had Louise Hay. In fact, the original person, I mentioned religious science before, Ernest Holmes is the founder of religious science, and he's the guy that we can thank for affirmations being modeled the way that they are. Affirmations, whenever you say them, they begin with I am statements. This is by design because whenever you are speaking I am, you are basically invoking your inner divine spark. Okay, this is important. In New Thought, let me explain this just for a second. In New Thought, it really builds on the concept of idealism, which is just a fancy word for the belief that the mental world is true reality and the material world is a response to that. So that
Wait, say that
means
again. The mental world is true
is
reality.
true reality.
And the
What is in the
material.
mind?
Okay.
Thoughts are things is a
Okay.
New Thoughts mantra. That's like one of the 10 commandments. Okay. Your thoughts and your mind power is really where true reality is.
Okay.
And the material world is secondary.
Okay.
Okay.
It's responding to that.
Yes, it's responding to, yes. This goes all the way back. Again, I'm geeking out a little bit on the origins. I love origins, but there's a guy named Emanuel Swedenborg who is one of the fathers of this baton. Like he helped create what this movement is. And Emanuel Swedenborg, if I could describe him, imagine Elon Musk tomorrow, right? You have this guy who wears many hats, who's very smart, very rich, very well known, respected. And he makes a tweet or Twix or whatever it is now. And he says, hey, I'm talking to spirits.
Yeah.
I've devoted my life to talking to these spirits that are giving me wisdom, misinformation about the unseen world. Okay. That was like Emanuel Swedenborg.
Okay.
He was an inventor. He's a scientist. He was very well respected.
He gained everyone's trust in that way. And
Yes,
then,
very
yeah,
thoughtful.
okay.
This is the 1600s, all right? You're talking like a long time ago, all right? So he's getting all this information from spirits, writing it down, and that's what made him well known were these books that he was writing about what the Bible really said.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So there's a correspondence to everything, okay? And one of the things that he teaches is the law of correspondence. And in the law of correspondence, which is very Plato-ish, he says that for everything in the material world, and when I say everything, I mean everything, literally anything you could think of has atoms on it. There is a spiritual counterpart, which is
that is Platonic. Yeah.
yes, which is it's whole, it's perfect,
Yeah.
and true. That's true reality. Okay, that's the truth. Okay, and so if something's wrong in the material world, you fix it in the spiritual world, and it will materialize. And this includes your body.
Okay.
This includes if you're poor. This includes if you don't have a love life.
This is great news. My counterpart must be like skinny and thriving and rich. And this is wonderful.
Exactly. You are whole, perfect, and divine. Okay.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
This is where the Christ consciousness comes in because Jesus is the way shower in the sense that he obtained the Christ. Remember, it's metaphysical. There's always a higher meaning. Yeah. So the Christ is like the dormant inner divinity, the divine spark within humanity. Okay.
Very Richard Rory. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, very Richard Rory. And so it gets your ignorance to this is why you haven't proceeded to understand your true identity, your true authentic self. Okay. And so the way that you materialize these things into the material world is by fixing it in the spiritual world. Well, how do you do that? Through your mind, through your thoughts, words, emotions, and feelings. It has a magnetic energy. It has these unseen energies that will bring it into this world. So one way to do that is through affirmations. And whenever, and this is the greatest commandment of manifestation and affirmations is you speak it in the now. And the intent of the affirmation is to materialize in this world whatever it is that you're trying to bring there into this world. Health, wealth, romance. Those are usually the big three.
Yeah.
And so a job, it could be anything. Okay. So I am worthy. I am enough. Okay. When you are speaking these things, say I'm speaking in the mirror and I'm speaking these positive things to myself, and say I have low self-esteem. Okay. And I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, you are enough. You are worthy. You are loved. Okay. People look at that and they're like, what's wrong with that, Melissa? What is so wrong
Mhm.
with that? Okay. Here's where the crossroad begins. Okay. This is, I've explained everything about what affirmations are. This
Yeah.
is where I really want people to lean into, because like I said, it's like the cookbook theology. Are you signing up for something? Are you saying something in the mirror, not realizing that you are signing up for this other spirituality along with these encouraging words because it sounds and looks encouraging, that you don't think anything's wrong with it? That's the problem, okay? So if you're saying these things in the mirror and you're pepping yourself up, man. I do this before if I have a speaking event. Like you
Yeah.
know this information, Melissa. You got this.
Yeah.
Like
Before a new job, all kinds of, yeah.
yeah, man. It's like I even if affirmations never existed, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I actually encourage people to be like, yeah, man, be nice to yourself. You know,
Yeah.
like be kind to yourself. I don't want people to pendulum on this other side of just
Sure.
completely avoiding any sort of self-love or self-care. That is not good or healthy.
Yeah.
And I think that because people are trying to avoid any of this, they go on this other extreme, which is, I would think just as bad, if not sometimes worse. And I think that that can be, yeah, that can be what it is. But what I think that people can lose is that if you're saying affirmations with the intent to bring forth something into existence, that should be your red flag. Are you looking in the mirror and you're like, you have this job, you're going to get this job, and you go,
Yeah.
hey, think about it. You go to the interview and you don't get it.
Right.
Are you, what's happening here?
Right. The problem is with you.
Well, and then you have to think, okay, well, I said my affirmations and it didn't happen. Or you can go home and be like, all right, okay, I'm still, you know what? I'm still looking for a job, but I got this. It's like there's a healthy self-confidence that can go along with these things. And you know these kinds of people, and they're wonderful to be around. Okay, they're
Yeah.
not toxically positive. They have healthy self-confidence. They're like, man, I know I'm good. Like I know that I know my stuff. Am I missing something? Like
Yeah.
maybe I'll get some advice. Okay. Not if you're trying to manifest, you don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying my best. I hope I'm not everywhere, but I'm trying to put these things in two different categories, two different buckets so people can see the
Mhm.
difference. When you're manifesting, you don't want anything negative or contrary in your vibe space,
Yeah.
that will contradict what you're trying to attract. Okay. And
You
because that goes
actually
along with affirmations. Yeah, keep going.
You actually told a story, I think kind of illustrates this in one of our prior conversations about a lady at the hospital who had I don't know, had a stroke or something. And
Oh,
she was
yes.
saying, you made me think of this
Oh,
when
that
you
was
said
so
in the
long
now.
ago. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
that she
often.
she said something like, I can walk or something like that. And you're like, sister,
You're
you
not
cannot
walking.
walk. Like you for sure
Yes.
cannot walk. And she's like, no, I
Yep.
can right now. Or it was
Yes.
something like that. And it was like, she had herself actually deluded into thinking
Mhm.
something that was untrue.
See, in
Was
her
true.
mind, though, see, like I can see this is so important to see it how they see it. Because in her mind, she is whole in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
Because that's the truest part of yourself. It's not physical. Your body is it can hold you back, right? And so this is why if your mind is the truest part of yourself, and when I say mind, I mean no doubting, absolute faith, positive vibes only, and anything that's coming in can deter you from getting results. And so you're careful about what you say, you're
Yeah.
careful about what you think, you are careful about who you hang out with. Those are
Mhm.
red flags, guys. That's not good.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing affirmations, declarations are not even a
Okay. We're
cousin
going
of
to do that in the
affirmations.
rapid fire. So yeah.
Yeah, man, they are definitely more than related.
Yeah.
The same thing. You are decreeing and commanding and declaring, and you have to be like, oh no, that girl, I don't want to be around her. In other words, when you come to critically analyze what they're doing, you are seen as the bad guy. That's a red flag. Like these are things that I think are down that road, that lane of affirmations. And then there's the I am statement, which is very problematic. Okay, the I am is very, very new thought. And I mean capital I, capital AM, because that is an invocation. That is you are invoking an inner divinity within yourself. In other words, I asked this woman, I did a lot of interviews for this book, and there was one woman I interviewed, and I asked her about affirmations, and I understood exactly what the implication was for affirmations, but I asked her, who are you praying to then? And she's like, well, myself. I'm praying to myself. Yeah. And so, and that's, yeah.
The I am is the name of God. I don't know if that's worth mentioning, but
Tetragrammaton.
yes, it's you are just as much the I am as Jesus is. And your only evil is your ignorance to that. And so if you're saying I am, you are invoking the name of God, a creative name, and then whatever follows after the I am will materialize in your life. Okay. It's so blasphemous. Wayne Dyer, he's one of them. He's somebody who is very, very much about affirmations. And one thing he says is that if you say anything after, I'm paraphrasing, but if you say anything after I am that's negative or bad about yourself, you're committing blasphemy. Yeah. And so there's,
this sounds a lot like Christian Science.
So, Christian Science is that's actually, it would be considered a cult of New Thought. Mary Baker Eddy there's a whole history there. I could go over it if you want me to.
But
there's a whole history.
It seems like that has kind of flamed out. Like as a church, like there's really not a lot of Christian Scientists anymore. In fact, downtown Houston, the Spire, I think it's called, is like a nightclub now. And that was once a Christian Scientist.
Yeah, we had a Christian Science library.
But if you take the word Christian off of it, it can still be sexy, which is why New Thought can creep in, where Christian Science can kind of die off.
Christian Science is a whole other thing, believe it or not.
But okay. But there's like a similarity of like that reality is in the mind,
an illusion,
which is why they don't go to doctors if people don't know anything about them, right? Because it's like, death is an illusion, sickness is an illusion, everything's an illusion, and you can actually heal yourself. And she has an origin story about how she healed herself after a fall, and that was almost certainly a lie. But anyway, but okay.
That's actually that is all a New Thought idea, is that it is an illusion. Yeah.
You talked about
that woman in the wheelchair is like, no, I'm not sick.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
You talked about a second ago, you said something about who are you praying to? And the person said themselves.
Yes.
So you're linking I am statements to prayer, I think rightfully so. So then how can we identify in ourselves if our prayer has been influenced by New Thought ideology? I may not be praying to Sarah. Like, I'm not like, oh, Sarah, won't you do it?
Exactly.
Yes. But
yes, I don't know. That's what I'm saying, that here's the rose. Those red flags. Think about it. If you are believing that there is some sort of power, intrinsic power in your words, in your thoughts, and your beliefs that can manifest into your world. Christians wouldn't use that word manifest, but believe me, that is the implication. You are trying to attract, you are trying to create, you are trying to bring something into your world. And as a Christian, maybe you're thinking, well, no, this is a biblical concept. They've just hijacked it. No, it's the other way around.
That's right.
It is the other way around. They created this. Christianity has hijacked it because they want that power. They want that result. This is chapter 8, by the way. There's an idea there where it's like, but they're getting results. I want that. I will become the sovereign then. I will become, I don't want this providence of God stuff. No way. I want to create for myself. There's an attitude there that I really implore people to pay attention to, other than the contentment of the Christian message, where it's like, you know what? And this is, in other words, let me put it this way. If you have a job, okay, that you're wanting, if you have a relationship, you know what I mean? It's like, these are practical things that Christians yearn for and want in their lives. And you're looking in the mirror and you're like, you know what? I am worthy of love. I am. I know that I am worthy of love. I am, content. I am this, I am that. And that's the other thing. Why do I never hear affirmations about I am humble? I am, I want to be, these things. And it's like, there's never anybody trying to manifest or bring that into their life. It's always money, riches, or something else. Anyway, that's a side note. But I mean, the idea is that if you have this idea in your mind that you cannot be content without these things, that you have to think, if you never got it, if you never get these things that you're trying to declare, decree, or affirm, would you still follow God? Like, is he enough for you? it always comes back to that for me. But there's also this intent of not pushing people out of your life, certain thoughts out
Yeah.
of your life, because, and that's the other problem is that with affirmations, because again, it's a domino effect because it goes along with law of attraction, manifestation, whatever. You're not allowed to doubt. You're not allowed to critically analyze, to say that it doesn't work, right? Because there might be people listening right now. They're like, "But my affirmations worked." Are
Yeah.
you able to say it didn't?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say like that it doesn't? Because that's the point, is that it
Yes.
creates this confirmation bias. And so yeah, there's so much to say about this. I just hope that I'm making it understandable in the sense of what it
So
actually is, and then hashing that away and not shaming people, for saying positive statements about themselves that are divorced from this thing of new thought affirmations.
it's been a long time since I've listened to like a Joel Osteen sermon or
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Furtick or something. But I mean, isn't that what the word faith movement is too? Like,
Yes.
there's a lot of tie-ins, right? Okay, so like,
Oh,
I mean, this is very mainstream, to be clear. Like, as
oh,
mainstream
very.
as it gets.
Yeah.
And
It's
there's
self-help books. It's
Okay.
prosperity gospel. But well, first I just want to recap something you said, and then I want to actually really switch gears. But it
Okay.
sounds like the answer to the question about how you can tell if it's infiltrating your prayer life is kind of your posture of who's in charge too, right? Like, if I'm the one that creates my destiny versus am I under surrender? Am I under submission to the authority of God, to the authority of Christ in my life? I think we can assess that posture. Like everyone, if you search deep down, do I think I'm making this happen, or am I asking for help from the Lord and then willing to go a different direction if that's where he sends me? But I want to switch like entirely, because one of the questions in the press kit was spicy, and we like spicy things. It's about sex. Let's talk about sex, guys.
That's in the press kit?
Yes. Well, this is the question that was in there. It said,
sure.
you share a deeply personal story about grappling with gender identity. That's not sex, but it's close enough.
Okay.
Prior to the rise of the modern sexuality movement. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. Have you guys read the whole book?
I have not. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's fine. It's most people, it's fine whenever you do these interviews. Yeah, well, there's a reason why I'm asking, but yeah, that I had to like go to therapy kind of over that chapter.
Oh, wow.
Because I struggled even adding it, because I'm like, there's such a relevancy there. And here's why. I grew up in these new thought beliefs, okay? And what it was that really, when I saw new thought for what it was, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's everywhere. This was one area that I couldn't shake. And what it was, the book that I read that really helped me see this, it didn't even help me see it, it just blew the lid off, was Carl Trueman's book, Strange New World. And I'm reading this and I'm like, why does this sound so much like new thought? Why am I reading this thinking that's a new thought concept? That's a new thought concept. I grew up with this. I grew up with that. What's the connection? And I grappled with that for a while until it just boom. I saw it and I'm like, oh, it is a new thought concept. He's talking about romanticism, right? And the expressive individualism, the true authentic self, being the true you, and all these things, and how that shapes your identity. It's the inside that needs to match the outside, right? And like not the other way around, and all these things. And I write about my own personal struggle, because what directly informed that internal struggle was these spiritual beliefs that I grew up with, that my true self, my true authentic self, is the spiritual self inside. I do not feel like a girl. I don't like being a girl. And it was raw and it was real. And it took me a long time, even into my adult years, to really deal with this, because I looked at boys and I'm like, man, they have a better life. Like they're smarter, they're people like them more. They
can
seem
pee standing up.
I mean, come
things.
on. It just seemed like their lives were easier. They were taken more seriously. I struggled with that. I struggled with a lot of this stuff. And so here's this spirituality. And let me be clear, new thought does not make men and women equal. It elevates womanhood. Okay.
Yeah.
I was better than a man.
Yeah.
And it's like there was this element of looking down on men. So that you can see these parallels to these social aspects, but there was a deep struggle with that for a long time. And a lot of it was the sin of jealousy. I was jealous
Hmm.
of men. And I can't remember who said that. I think might have been Nancy Piercy or Rosaria Butterfield. But when she said that, I'm like, yes, that's exactly how I felt. I felt jealous. It was the sin of envy.
Interesting.
Yes, but it was more than that. I did not feel like a girl. There was something there that was really wrong. I was begging God to like be a boy.
Oh,
It was real. It was
I did not
raw.
know this side of you, Melissa. Wow.
Yeah, there was a I needed therapy to get through this chapter.
Yeah.
So, but I even called my editor over it, and I'm like, I he was so supportive. Let me just say, the team that I had was incredible, and it was just whatever I wanted to add, whatever I needed to add, and I prayed about it, I thought about it, and I realized I'm like, how could I not add this element, because you have this society that that is that has it backwards.
Yeah.
It's like I mean we're thinking about identity in this spiritual sense. That is the argument that I'm making in the chapter. So you have Carl Truman who's saying, yeah, this is a social thing. How did we get here? Brilliant book. Brilliant
Yeah.
book. And then I'm thinking, and all this time goes by, and I'm like, man, but for me, it was different. It wasn't just social, it was spiritual.
Yeah.
And that is where I did a ton of research. I'm staring at the big yellow book right now, Transcendentalism, which is
Mm.
where Ralph Waldo Emerson comes in, who is seen as one of the fathers of New Thought.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I see it. I see it. I see these crossroads of this social movement, romanticism, and all these other people that handed the baton over into how we kind of where we got to where we are today. And there's Emerson with
Yeah.
the transcendental movement, which basically says, like, if I could put transcendentalism and explain it in one word, it would be self. If I
Hmm.
could explain romanticism in one word, it would be emotion. And that is the area in which truth is found. And the
Yeah.
problem is that whenever you're talking to somebody that says that they are a female when they're really a male, and you're telling them, you're trying to, as a Christian, maybe level with them, for them, and it was for me, you're not just going up against them, you're going up against something divine. You're going up against
Yeah.
God. Yeah. And so for them, they're not just offended. For them, it's like you're offending my religion. Like you're offending something that I feel to be a spiritual thing, which
Hmm.
can
A
be very
deeper,
difficult.
truer thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there's that. I mean, let me know if you have any questions on it, but there was a definite thread of, oh, these new thought beliefs infused, which again, I didn't know it was new thought. I didn't even know there was a name for this until after I got out of it. Um, but there was definitely a spirituality there that was all about living your true authentic self. Your inner self is divine. I mean, do the
Yeah.
math. Yeah.
So, and maybe you don't want to say this, but
Mm.
how did you come out of that?
Oh, no,
Uh,
it's fine. Yeah, you can ask anything you want about it. So I struggled with that for a long time into my teenage years. It kind of became a peripheral thing as I entered my teen years because I became a Christian at 16.
yeah.
And so I would call it dysphoria of some kind that I struggled
Yeah.
with all the way up until maybe 13, 14, 15. And then I became a Christian. And everything changed after that. Like
Hmm.
everything changed. I mean,
I know you
I had a
described being like a party or something and like colors were
yes,
brighter
like
and you felt
you've heard my
amazing. And
story. Yeah,
yeah.
you've heard me explain this before, but it's like I literally woke up the next day just like a new person.
You were freed.
It I felt born again. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that really where that was in the Bible, but it was I didn't know it really about it, but I was a new creation. And there was this love for myself. I'm like, oh,
I'm the
this
way
is
I'm
new.
supposed to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and say I was completely healed. I
Sure.
wasn't, but that there was something just about that
Hmm.
my whole process. And then the pilgrim's progress begins. You know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
the sanctification progress begins. And there was definitely an acceptance of myself, but I did still struggle.
Yeah.
I would say all the way. I didn't struggle so much with dysphoria, but with jealousy.
Sure.
Yeah, that I
Yeah.
struggled with like, man, I hate being a girl. You know what I mean? Like, I
Oh,
don't like
yeah.
this. There was still an element of that I really needed to overcome all the way up until like maybe my late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even after I got married, because there was a lot of stuff even within my marriage that I did not, and I still think, even looking back, I'm like, I kind of see what the feminists are saying sometimes. But
Sure.
again, that can be overlapped and made and misconstrued. But I took that, and it was stuff that I just had to parse out
Yeah.
and get through and work out within myself. And even still to this day, I was just in the kitchen the other day, and I thought to myself, I had a thought about something, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, okay, I know what that is. I know how that feels. I know where that's coming from. And I'm like, I'm fine, I'm okay, but it's always something that you kind of have to
You're
deal
aware
with.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I understand deeply on many levels how somebody could be struggling with their gender identity. The
Yeah.
problem is that this wasn't like a thing, gender identity. I'm talking about like an identity in general until like 5 years ago.
Right.
And then I started seeing the parallels of what Truman is saying in his book, but also the claims being made
Yeah.
of, I am what I am. I am whole. I am this.
Sure.
This is my true
And I know
authentic
my
self.
true self. Yeah, man, it is
Yes.
all connected. Okay,
Yeah.
because you have a heart out soon, I dreamed this up last night that I wanted to do like a rapid fire section of
Yeah.
this interview. So I'm going to ask you about several things. And you said before we started recording, each of these has a nuanced answer. So let me just put the blanket on this ahead of time. We know that each of these has like it depends on your posture and your intent and what you're thinking. But as best as you can, I want your thoughts on the following things, rapid fire style. Here we go. People declaring things or declaring in Jesus' name. Like I went to a conference once recently, like we declare in the name of Jesus, we declare da da da. What about declarations? Yay, nay?
No. Oh, nay.
Yeah.
No, nay.
was
Total red
easy.
flag. You cannot decree and declare and tell God what to do.
Yes. Thank
We
you. Oh
wouldn't
my
want
gosh.
this with our kids.
This was at a very well-known Christian conference. I won't say the name here. I'm tempted to, but that I was shocked. I was like, why are we telling God what to do? Oh my gosh. Okay. Moving on.
The example I give is little Jimmy, 10-year-old Jimmy, decreeing and declaring to his mom and dad that he wants something. And I'm like, we wouldn't even expect this from snot-nosed 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Why are we saying this is biblical? But yeah that's where I'm at with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Copy that. Vision boards.
Oh, what do you mean by vision board?
Okay, yeah. So this is where nuance comes in. Yeah. Let's throw out, for the sake of rapid fire, people that just have sort of pictures of places they want to go on vacation, jobs they'd love to have that just inspire them. Let's take that out. Let's talk about people that are putting together a collage of things that they think if they put that up, that they will have the power to make that happen.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
There's a goal board and there's a vision board. And if you're visualizing your vision board, thinking there's some sort of energy attached to that, no. But I mean, I have seen people have like goal boards. Yeah. And I think that's great. I actually think I'm like, yeah, man, that's actually pretty cool. I think that that's a great thing to do. But no, if there's some sort of intrinsic power that you are attributing to it, total nay.
Yeah. The word of the year. This is a Christian-y thing that I cringe at, but then again, I can be a mean girl where people will be like in January, and we're in January now, as we record this, like, oh, my word for the year is hope. My word for the year is surrender. Thoughts on that?
Okay. What is the word of the year supposed to do? Tell me that.
Something that you're meditating on and that the Lord has given you as a focus for the year. And
so it's like a word from the Lord.
I mean, that's how I hear it. Have you heard people do this?
In my Bible for the last several years, there's like one word, 2021 word, 2022.
Oh, wow.
Because it's from God. So I pasted
Stop.
I'm joking.
I thought he meant like a Bible app, but then I realized he was just being a smart aleck. Okay.
No, but I mean, this is the thing. Like if someone is really speaking prophecy from God, then like it kind of should be for the whole church, and it kind of should be in all of our Bibles.
Ooh, good point. We should rapid fire with Evan.
Yeah, I honestly, I have, anytime I hear any sort of context with word of the year, I don't hear it within the context of a biblical context, number one. Number two, I do not hear it I do not hear it outside of some sort of prophetic or hypercharismatic atmosphere. And that is I love my charismatic brothers and sisters. Like so many, we've been over this many times.
Yes.
But I squint eye at that. I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
mean by that? So
Squint
I would
eye.
err on I try to err on the side of grace, but in this case, from what I've heard of it, I'm like, I'd err on the side of nay on
Yeah.
that. So
That's
yeah,
your word of the year. Nay.
that's my word of the year is nay.
Okay. Personality tests like Myers-Briggs, Enneagram. We've had long conversations about the Enneagram, but
Yeah.
like, so I'm not in it now, but when I was in the dating world on dating apps, a lot will put in their bio like ENFJ, love to cook, da 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 da. Like it's a part of the identifying yourself.
I mean, I think if you're taking a personality test, like I don't know much about Myers-Briggs. I remember taking a Myers-Briggs. Honestly, I took a personality test a long time ago. It was like in a book or something. And I'm like, oh, I'm an introvert. Oh, this explains so much. Like why am I the way I am? So I think
Yeah.
there could be. So I'm
Okay,
not
so
going to
you're
say
not
completely.
you're not a nay on
No, I'm not
generally
going to say.
speaking.
I don't think that it's practical to say that. I think that there's fine personality tests out there that are not meant to take over your whole life. I
Sure.
think that Enneagram, that's too easy. That's low hanging fruit. Nay.
Right.
But if you're talking about just an in general test that isn't, there's no gain, or it's not something that's basically a religion for you, but
Yes.
is something that can help you see like, oh, I'm kind of narcissistic. You know what I mean? Like if it's helpful, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm kind of anxious about things, or, oh, I'm kind of a jerk about things, or, hey, I'm actually good at this.
Yeah.
That's helpful. That helps
Yeah.
you see good and bad things. Go for it.
Okay. We may have to
like,
do a
lovely.
whole other episode
Yeah.
sometime about the Jungian roots of the personality test movement, but that's
Maybe, yeah.
for another day.
Yeah.
Grounding. This is something I've only recently heard of in the like Maha movement, people that are super crunchy, which I'm marginally crunchy, talking about like taking your shoes off outside because of the like Earth's natural electric charge.
Nay.
Thoughts? Okay.
Nay.
You don't think the Earth has a
100%.
natural electric charge? You don't want to
No,
buy the
I think
shoes that have the little metal
Let me put it this way. Everything has some sort of natural something to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a fallacy. I forget what it's called. But just because it's natural doesn't mean that it A, makes you powerful, or B, is good for you.
Yeah.
Well,
that takes me to my next rapid fire, which is microdosing, psilocybin, ayahuasca, that whole world.
What is that? I have no idea.
Oh, you don't? What?
No, what is that?
Melissa, you got to get on board, baby.
Hold on, but what did you just say?
I barely know I know ayahuasca is what Joe Rogan does. Like that's
gosh, he should not do that so bad.
I don't even
Psilocybin
know
is a hallucinogenic that some people will take in small doses to like increase their.
In case I'm wrong, please, I allegedly or whatever word.
No, leave it, and then he has to come and like be on our podcast to defend himself.
Yeah.
And we could just pass that one if you want. But microdosing is using hallucinogenics in small forms to like elevate your, I don't know, thinking and your awareness.
All the ayahuasca bros are really into it right now.
It's got all kinds of stuff connected to like divine feminine energy and.
Yeah, no, nay. I mean, nay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a lot
Two
of
more.
People. There is a real tie-in though. Like Cernovich, if you follow him on X, he'll talk about this a lot. Like and others will talk about who trying to remember who it was. Anyway, they will talk about like basically doing that and having experience with what we would call demons.
Yes.
So like
it's deeply spiritual
experience. That's mysticism. Yeah. So you're basically taking something that shuts off your mind and makes you have a mystical experience with God. Imagine having a conversation with them about reality then.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't help you. That tears you away more from reality, thinking that you are more real than others. No.
Yeah. Well, and we've done a couple of episodes on that kind of thing and ego dissolution. So we'll just refer people to those. Last two. Yeah. Lectio Divina. Do you know anything about that kind of prayer?
Vaguely. I had
Marcia Montenegro has some strong thoughts about this.
I looked it up briefly because somebody asked me about it. That's a Catholic thing, right?
Well, it's really kind of made its way into Protestantism. I mean, I've been at several churches where they do Lectio Divina prayer. So you repeat, you read a passage, that you read it again, and each time you kind of concentrate or meditate on it differently.
Why would you do that?
I know people that do that, and well, it's like a way of forcing you to concentrate on the text. It's at least text driven, but biblically driven. Like that's the object of what you're supposed to be doing. And so I think it's kind of like rounding off the edges of a cube, right? Where you're looking at a text and you're, but
what's the goal?
Meditating on scripture. But it seems to me it's sort of on the edge of contemplative Christianity. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess my concern would be is like, what is your goal? I mean, are you trying to understand scripture, or are you trying to are you trying to feel something?
Put yourself in a trance or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I don't know on that one.
That's fair.
In that.
Yeah. All right, last one. Breathe prayers. We talked before we started recording about this. This is I'm breathing out, the negativity of 2024, and I'm breathing in the hope and the promise of 2025. Won't he do it? Yes and amen. Thoughts. By the way, I've started saying some of these things ironically because, I'm pretty conservative on all these things, but
what do you have against amen?
No, amen is fine. But speaking things into existence, I'll say with like family and friends, I'll be like, oh, I am going to, whatever the thing is, like, I'm going to be or I'll joke and say, I'm so wealthy. I'm calling that into existence. I'm manifesting it. And it's a joke. They all know I'm joking, but every now and then I'll say it kind of in public. And someone just the other day at Sprouts was like, oh yes, won't he do it? And I was like, oh no, actually, I didn't know what to say.
You know what you should have said is like, oh, I'm manifesting contentment and humility and patience.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
okay. So breathe prayers.
Yay, do it, I guess. Yeah. I would, I need more information on that.
Yeah.
It would depend on, are you doing this regularly? Are you doing this for long periods of time? I mean, are you doing this in the form and fashion that's after contemplative prayer pattern? Because if so, nay. But I mean, again, you got to nuance that a little bit. If you're sitting there and you're like stressed out and you're like, okay, just breathe. All right, God, I'm breathing. I'm relaxed. I don't think that stress management is unbiblical, and I think that there's a level of just like avoid it all that I think that we need to be cautioned of. But at the same time, I mean, come on, guys, like there is like a level of common sense with it. So I'm gonna go with a nay. Of course, if it's patterned after a contemplative prayer pattern, I think that that's common sense for the Christian.
Do you talk about contemplative prayer in the book?
No.
Okay.
Contemplative prayer. I mean, it's not something that would come up a lot in New Thought circles in that regard. I think that would be more in New Age.
In New Age. Yeah. And we've done a couple episodes on that.
There is always some overlap, but
sure.
Yeah, I didn't even know what that was after I left. It was affirmative prayer. You spoke in declarations, you spoke in the now. And it would manifest in your reality. It was law of attraction. You prayed as if you had it. You prayed as if God wanted to bless you and give you every blessing because you are a child of God. And that was the way I prayed.
So as we round this out, and I know you have to get going, what sort of, last little bit of either advice or recommendation or resources would you offer people that want to know more about this? Obviously they should get and read your book, Happy Lies. Yeah. Anything else that people should do or think on or?
Yes. Every chapter, most of them anyway, have a recommended resources. So if you guys want more, and even then I would have added more. I can't believe I didn't add like Nancy Pearcey to chapter 5. I'm like, why did I do that? But yeah, there's resources there. But also just, if somebody's hearing this and maybe they can disagree with me, I love free speech. I love it. I love free thinking. Because you got to have free speech for free thinking. But the one thing I think I want to say is that if you disagree with me, that's okay. I would encourage you to think why you disagree. Where's that coming from? And where am I wrong? Where is this a level of how is this not connected to a new thought belief? But also number 2, it's a burden to believe these things. Believing your own inner divinity on any level, whether you believe that you have the same power as God to co-create, is a burden. Being your own God is a burden. This is not good. And this is not how God wanted it to be. And so this is a false Christianity. I do my best in this book to draw that line back to new thought beliefs. I am my own worst critic. I do think that there's better people out there and smarter people out there that could have written on this. And so I hope that those that want to know more do read it and grow on it. That's actually my call to action is grow on this, lean into it.
I'm glad we ended with that idea that these kinds of thoughts, this ideology is burdensome. Like you
It
can
helps
be
you at what
free
cost?
from this.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, and where can people find you if they want to come and harass you? No, I'm kidding. But your YouTube channel, what's
My name. It's just my
Okay.
name, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twix. I don't really go on Twix a lot.
Twix? Is that what we're calling it now?
That's what I am calling it, my friend,
That's
because I'm like,
adorable.
it's always going to be Twitter to me. And I'm like, why X? That is weird. And so
But now
it's
I want
Twix.
chocolate. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. And so
Well,
like,
Melissa, I know you have to head out, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for doing this. We love having you on the show. Read the book, get the book, read the book, Happy Lies. It's yeah. And we encourage you, our audience, until we see you next time, as always, to question freely, think deeply, and disagree as needed.